This is an entry from Summer's journal, October 15th. Many women think of rape as a crime committed by a stranger. But the truth is, most women are raped by someone they know, someone they trusted. This is Summer. She is a survivor of date rape. This is Summer's story.
One year and 4 days ago, I was date raped. It was my freshman year in college, and I was going to a party with some friends. And this guy was going with us all that I had admired from afar for a long time. And he was a sophomore advisor. It's he's a real leader in the college community, or was. And just a real respected guy, very cute, real nice guy. And he was in the group that we were going with. And we went to the party, and we talked for a while and stuff, and that was on a Friday night. And then Saturday night, his fraternity had a party at the house. My friends and I went to the party, and of course there were lots of kegs, and he conveniently had my cup filled all the time. So within about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'd say, everybody at the party was pretty drunk. Anyway, it was really hot inside, so we went outside to cool off. We'd been dancing, and he asked me if I wanted to go up to his room, and I told him no. And so then we started talking about other things, and about 5 minutes later he asked me again, and I told him I'd really rather not. And again, we started talking about other things, and then he asked me again, and I said, well, I'm probably going to fall asleep, because it was about 4 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning maybe by then, and I was really tired. And I said, well, I'm probably going to fall asleep. And he laughed, and he said, oh, well, thanks. And so I followed him back to the dorm. He lived on the 3rd floor. And we went into his room, and I said, before anything started at all, I said, I addressed him, and I said, I'm not going to have sex with you.
Many men believe that if they buy a woman dinner, or if they invite a woman to their room and she accepts, that she is consenting to having sex. Sex is never an obligation.
He started kissing me, and I said, did you understand me? We're not going to have sex. And I don't remember whether he responded or not. So we started kissing and stuff, and he started doing things I didn't want him to do. And so I started to push his hands away. I didn't really say anything. And he would wait a little while and try it again. And then I started asking him, please don't do that. But he kept advancing, and I started getting very upset. And eventually I started crying. At one point, I stopped fighting, and now I know that that's a normal reaction. And I stopped fighting, and I started praying and asking God to please get me out of there. There wasn't a weapon involved. He had my arms pinned, and I did suffer slight injuries. Not from, he never hit me or anything like that. He wouldn't let my arms go, and he had my head in back of the headboard, and it was banging up against the back of the headboard. After a while, in fact, that's all I remember. After a while, is my head banging up against the headboard. And when he chased me down the stairs, I sprained my ankle. But he never really used any great amount of physical force. And there doesn't have to be a weapon. You know, I mean, a guy can be so intimidating that he can get, and just because a guy didn't beat the hell out of you doesn't mean you weren't raped. Afterwards, he sat at the end of the bed and put his hands in his head like he was crying. And I got up and was trying to find all my clothes. I didn't even know what had happened to him, and I didn't know where everything was. And I finally found all my clothes, and I ran out, and he chased me and ran down the stairs. And I still have a real problem with stairs and hearing people running above me. Anyway, so he chased me, and I was running to my dorm, and he caught me and said, "I'm so sorry, I can't believe that I was such an asshole." And I said, "Forget it, don't worry about it, let's just forget it," because I just wanted to go home and I wanted to go to bed and I didn't want to think about it. And he said, "No, you're never going to forget this, believe me."
Sex by force is rape. It is a violent crime, and it is illegal. 10 days after the rape, Summer pressed charges. A hearing was held by the university. He was found guilty and immediately expelled. But a victim can never forget. The effects of date rape are endless and devastating. Something fundamental is lost. A belief that we can depend on our friends not to harm us. What's also lost is a trust in self. The survivor of date rape has the anguishing task of having to learn to trust herself again.
The next morning, I decided, hey, I'm a strong person, you know, I'm going to forget about this. It's no big deal. And so I tried for a day to forget about it. I didn't tell anybody, but my suite mate knew, and I told my roommate. And I told them that if I thought I couldn't handle it by myself, that I would get some help. And that by about 5:30 that evening, I needed help. It took me a long time to go out on campus again. I still have a hard time in crowded places like bars and stuff like that. I really need my close friends with me. And even then I get nervous. If somebody bumps up against me wrong, I start to panic. And that's not fair, to not be able to go somewhere and feel comfortable, because I never was like that before. It's real hard for me to be alone in a room with a man. For a long time, I couldn't even be around my relatives that were male. It really upset me. It doesn't seem like there's a night that goes by that I don't wake up and from a nightmare, either crying or have woken my roommate up from screaming or something like that. It's been really, really tough. And there are some days that I just didn't want to do it anymore.
And want to do what?
I didn't want to live. And that is scary. And the only way I got through that was my family and my support, because I have a lot of people around me who love me. And now the biggest thing that I have to get over is how I think about myself, because after something like that, your whole concept of self is distorted. I didn't have any self-esteem, and still some days I look in the mirror and think, God, when am I going to like that person again? When am I going to look in the mirror and think that she's pretty? Because I lost all that, and right now I'm just working really hard to get that back. You don't trust your judgment anymore, and you feel like you can't trust anybody.
Summer's journal entry 6 weeks after the rape. Rape is not sex. It is anger and violence. The rapist is out of control and has the twisted need to control somebody else. And yet, rape victims often blame themselves for what happened. They are filled with guilt and shame. Summer discusses why.
Society has this little thing about that women ask for it when they wear certain things or stuff like that. I had a real hard time because I was wearing a tank top. I had an Oxford on over it, but my midriff was showing. And I thought for a long time that I shouldn't have been wearing that it was my fault. And maybe a certain way I was dancing was provocative. Well, so what? I believe women blame themselves because I don't know. I just know I did. I just know that I felt that I had done something really wrong and that I was a really bad person because this had happened to me. Something obviously was wrong with me to make somebody want to punish me. And I thought that I had done all kinds of things wrong, and I analyzed it back and forth and upwards, and it wasn't my fault. And it took me a long time to say it wasn't my fault. It took me a long time to get to say that. There are too many, way too many women out there, first of all, that have been date raped. Second of all, that never say anything. It's not their fault. And to not say anything is to try and take on this terrible, terrible thing all by yourself when there are people all over the world who want to help you. Oh, to all the men watching this film, here's what you need to do. You need to erase everything society has ever taught you and start over. Respect women because we're really good people. And you don't know what it does for 10 minutes of something that you think you want so bad. 10 minutes in one girl's life, that messes her up for so long. This is going to affect me for the rest of my life. I'm never going to be completely comfortable in some situations. I'm always going to be scared. I'm always going to have some doubt about myself, and that's not fair.
There are ways to try to prevent date rape. Understand you have a right to your body, a right to your space. When you really believe this, you are less likely to put up with even a small intrusion. Establish your limits. Make your boundaries known to your date or acquaintance by stating them clearly. Draw the line at the invasion of your space by saying no strongly, loudly. Trust your instincts. The moment you feel uncomfortable, act, and do it fast. Don't be afraid to make a scene. If a forceful no doesn't stop his advances, make a scene. Get away. Yell for help. And especially to the men, be aware of your feelings. If you are having sex and you're angry, something is wrong. And if you know someone who has bragged about similar sexual experiences, suggest they seek help. They could be hurting someone.
Okay, there's a lot of things that girls can do to recognize potential rapists or to get themselves out of a bad situation. First of all, my therapist and I like to call the little signs red flags. And there are some guys that have red flags just all over them. Some of them might be a guy that walks up and says hi and puts his hand on your arm, gives you a little squeeze, makes you feel kind of funny. Those are the kind of guys you just don't want to say yes to go out on a date with by yourself. I mean, he might be a really great guy around friends and everything, but if he makes you feel the slightest bit uncomfortable anytime, just watch out for him. Not to say he's an evil person, just be aware. Alcohol and college go together, synonymous. High school too, but college more so, and frat parties. And there's a poster on the campus that I go to now, and it's really big, and it's right in the middle of this walkway, and it shows a guy in front of a keg pouring a mug of beer, and it says campus rape starts here. And that's basically the whole thing. I mean, that's the truth. That's how it happened with me. It never would have happened if I hadn't been drinking. And that's not to say that women shouldn't go to frat parties and women shouldn't drink, because, I mean, hey, if you want to do it, you have the right. but watch how much you're drinking. Get your own drinks. Just make sure you keep count and do it slow. Make it a social thing, not I'm going to a party to drink and get drunk, because that gets real dangerous. Society has this thing about making women passive. And when, women want to make everything okay. Well, this is really uncomfortable, but maybe if I just kind of go, ooh, then they'll stop. I don't want to scream, and I don't want to yell, and I don't want to fight. And that's what gets us into this shit. I mean, you gotta, if you feel uncomfortable, do something about it. Say something. Or get up and start screaming and jumping on them. I don't know, just do anything. Just don't sit there and not say anything, because it gets a lot worse if you don't say something, and then it gets out of control. If you're in a situation that you are alone with a guy and you decide that you don't like what's going on, say something. Because even if you started it, you don't have to finish it, and you don't owe anybody anything.
The hope of preventing another date rape was Summer's reason for making this video. This is her journal entry after the interview.